Alright, this is another video in the series that Steve and I did with Zach Reinig, a longtime friend and competitive powerlifter. He let us swing by his gym, Renegade Strength and Performance. In this video, he goes through how he teaches the squat, both high bar and low bar. And this opening clip is him squatting 562 pounds for 2 reps. We're into our squat here. Going through a high bar squat, yeah?
Yeah.
And we can maybe at the end go through just like positioning of low bar and just kind of how you set that up too.
Yeah. The biggest thing off this jump, that's why this middle knurling's here, this ring, make sure this is in the middle of your back.
Okay.
Because what happens is as we pull that bar into position, even on high bar, if it is off to the left or to the right, when we go to drive, you're going to see a little bit of shift in that bar. And then, I mean, that might be fine when you have like 135 pounds on, but when we're pushing it, you're definitely going to feel the difference. And so biggest thing is get your hand positioning. I would always start kind of just outside shoulder width.
Okay.
Some guys, if they're bigger guys, correct, they got to go a little bit wider. But I mean, yeah, I would always just start right outside shoulder width. Because if we get too wide, we lose the ability to engage our lats. And then we lose that upper back tightness. And when we lose that upper back tightness, that's when we lose position as we drive out of the hole.
Sure.
And we bring our our back starts around and our chest sinks. And then you're never going to complete a lift like that. So,
100%.
And then, make sure that we're in the middle. Good. Rings right in the middle of our back. And then we stand up. And the walkout is a skill in powerlifting. When you're doing squats for a sport other than powerlifting, it's really not that big of a deal. But from here, we already want to be pulling down on the bar, elbows basically to our rib cage.
Okay.
And then pretending like we're trying to bend that bar around our back.
Okay.
And then that's going to create that tightness in your lats and in your upper back.
Okay.
And then once we have once we have our elbows, we're bringing our elbows down. We're pulling that bar around our back, around our traps, depending on the placement of the bar. We're going to take one big step, and then we're going to take a half step, and then we're going to set our feet. Good. And then as far as feet placement and width, it just depends on mobility. If we have good ankle mobility and we're doing a knee forward squat, then I mean, within shoulder width or just outside is good. If we don't have great ankle mobility and we have to rely on our hips to open us up in order to descend down, then maybe just a little bit wider, just outside. I know I'm just outside of my shoulders, feet 45 degrees.
Okay.
That allows me to externally rotate and sink and descend into the squat. And then from here, some people teach hips first. I teach knees, break at the knees first. But as we're descending down, I do externally rotate and basically think about twisting the floor underneath you. Yeah. And then once we're opening up those hips, it allows us to descend into the squat, driving the knees over the toes, and then we hit that hole and just fire back up.
Bounce out of it.
Yep.
Okay, so knees first.
Yep. Knees first.
Okay.
And then twist the floor. Yep. And then we descend. Yep. And then pressing up. And then the whole time we're driving those elbows down and making sure that our back is nice and tight. Because if we don't focus on that out of the hole, again, you're going to lose that upper back tightness. You're going to lose the lift. You're going to lose that movement. So, the biggest thing is maintaining that tightness in your upper back as we externally rotate, twist the floor, and then descend into the squat, and then drive up. Yep. Relying on that stretch reflex to get us back up through the hole. Good. Yep.
Now, what are you doing here, Zach, with your ribs? Are your ribs flared a little bit? Are you stacked?
I sink my ribs.
Okay.
So I guess that's something we could have talked about too, is the breath.
Yeah.
So when I breathe, I'm expanding outward into my belt.
Okay.
So I'm breathing into my belly and expanding out into my belt, and I'm doing almost like a hollow hold.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm bringing the ribs down slightly and then descending. Yep. Yep. Just like that. Good. Yep. And then the bringing the ribs down allows us to engage our core and make sure our core is nice and tight. And then again, it pushing us up against our competition belts, which I've got like 4 of them lying around here. They're nice and thick. Huh. Whoa. So they're real wide, super thick, and we're pushing our core and our belly up against this and expanding into the belt, kind of like a soda can when you shake it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can feel that tension on the sides of the can itself. That's that's kind of the what we're picturing in our minds when we do this. We're expanding into the sides of the soda can.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I think that's something that a lot of times people will miss is, we're so used to breathing into our chest
Yep.
that it's hard for people to conceptualize if they've never done any like diaphragmatic or like belly breathing.
Yep.
It's hard for them to conceptualize like taking a breath in there.
Yep.
But with the external,
You can feel it.
yeah, you can feel breathing into it.
100%.
That's a good
And what
combo.
happens when we breathe into our chest, our ribs raise.
Yeah.
We're not going to have that tightness in the
You're
core.
gonna flare.
Yep.
You're gonna lose that.
Yep.
Sure.
100%. And so again, we lose that tightness. Then when we go to press and push from the floor out of the hole, we're going to slouch over and we're going to end up right back where we should be.
Yeah.
So if we're not ready for that, if we're not bracing for that, I mean, that could be the cost of losing a lift and getting a lift.
100%.
So from there, it's just bars, middle of our back. We're pulling down on the bar, bending it over our upper back or our shoulder, depending on the placement of it. Punching those elbows in to our rib cage, breathing into our bellies, closing that, bringing the ribs down just a little bit.
Yep.
And then twisting the floor, bending at the knees, externally rotating at the same time, hitting that hole, and then driving up. I guess the biggest thing that I guess you could run into as you descend is butt weak. I mean, everybody talks about that. Usually a lot of times that's just a mobility issue.
Okay.
We don't have the ankle mobility to descend in there comfortably enough. So our lumbar kind of plays catch up as we descend down. So I mean that'll go away if you widen out.
Okay.
If you want an instant fix, if you widen out and then really focus on externally rotating those hips. But yeah, other than that, that's basically it.
Yeah. If someone does struggle with that, especially coming out of the hole, hips rising first and chest falling, what do you go to in terms of addressing that?
So as far as variations?
No, just like, hey, this is how
you're talking about cues.
Yeah, I'm going to throw you a cue of how to kind of fix
That's a good one. Driving your back into the bar.
Okay. Well, I think sometimes, at least for like what I've seen, is like slowing it down a little bit.
Yeah.
A lot of times, especially with high schoolers, right? They're so fast and they don't really have any control out of the bottom. So not adding a pause, because I think learning how to bounce out of the hole there's value in that. But like 2 or 3 second eccentric on the way down, just to kind of slow it down.
Yeah.
And it kind of made me think when you were talking about earlier about, the importance of your upper back tightness.
Yep.
I've never, cued a kid to keep a tighter upper back to try to prevent that, but it's something that might work.
Well, and then what you'll see a lot with that too is if they round, their elbows go back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if you tell them to bring those elbows back to their rib cage, focus on bringing those elbows to the rib cage, it'll usually take care of itself.
Sure. I got you.
So, because we can't, if our elbows are near our rib cage, you can't really round at the back without, I mean, I guess you're hinging over at that point. You see what I'm saying? So, it makes it a lot harder for them get out of position.
Okay.
That's what, as we descend into the hole, it's a fine line between too slow and too fast.
Sure.
Because if we do just bomb down there, you have to think that's weight moving at an accelerated rate that you're going to have to then fight against as we press back up.
Yeah.
So you want to descend at a speed where you will get that stretch reflex that'll help you out of the hole, but also you don't want to have to again fight that accelerated force out of the hole. And so it is a fine line. So slowing it down, teaching the right speed, is definitely going to be important.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to walk me through how the low bar setup, how you typically go about, like, imagine I've never low bar squatted before and you're trying to explain where the bars should be, how to set up.
Yep. So, how's your shoulder mobility?
Decent.
We're going to have to lower this. So with the low bar, your ribs, just out of just pure instinct, your ribs are automatic. You're going to be hinged over a little bit anyways. And then your ribs are going to be, down.
Okay.
So just in order to get you into position, hands might have to go a little bit wider. Just depending on your shoulder mobility.
Yep.
Same thing. We're going to find the middle of it and we're going to really dig up and under the bar. Yes. Until it's right there sitting on those rear delts. And then that is a good low bar position. In competition, you can't have it too low. You've seen there's a big thing going on with the French powerlifters right now where they go low, like all the way down here. Yeah. I mean, good luck.
Yeah.
And they'll squat super narrow and basically just hinge out of the bottom of the squat.
Yeah.
What low bar does is it puts the weight over the center of gravity more. And then it takes the neck out of play. So as we descend, like I said, in order to keep that bar up, we're going to have to hinge a little bit more. So whether we start in that position, or we get there as we progress in the descent, I like to start in that position. I like to load backwards with my hips slightly, and then same thing from there. Once our hips are loaded backwards, it's the same as the high bar. We're gonna externally rotate, twist that floor underneath us, and then descend into the squat. Yep, good. And then again, and then if you look at this from the side, as he descends, you can see the bar is going to be directly over his feet the entire time in a straight line. Whereas with high bar, depending on our position, if we can't get upright, we're going to lose that position in the squat as it starts to get heavier.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
So low bar, honestly, it's just a more efficient way to move weight.
Well, it's always, at least for me, it's always felt, at the top, it's a little bit more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But once you start going down, especially at the bottom, it feels,
it feels.
You're already going to be obviously in a little bit of a forward lean. With that, you're already kind of preset that way. So it just feels so much better at the bottom than it does compared to.
Especially if you don't have the mobility and if your lack of mobility pulls you into that forward lean anyways.
Yeah.
Because again, the bars, if we get pulled into a forward lean, then the bar and the way the weight's distributed is out in front of our feet instead of in the middle of our foot, in the middle of our center of gravity.
Yeah.
And so that's what happens. You have to fight that back into position instead of maintaining that position all the way through the lift.
Yeah.
So for a lot of people, again, unless you're Chinese, I don't know if I can say that, and you have super sick mobility, or again, if you're short femored, like this is, I like low bar because I'm long femored, and so it's a more efficient way for me to move weight. Whereas if I high bar, my butt goes back because I don't have the ankle mobility to drive my knees forward to stay centered.
Yeah.
And so my butt goes back, which then, as a consequence of my butt going back, my chest has to fall forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then again, that puts that weight instead of center foot, front of my foot.
Yeah.
And then as I go to drive back up, I'm having to fight that weight from pulling me forward instead of it being in the center of my foot where I can just apply and drive straight up.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's throw a little bit of weight on here.
Want the blues?
Yeah, let's throw a blue on there, man.
So the squat bar is 25 keys.
Okay.
Just so everybody knows.
Oh.
It's thicker in diameter and it's longer than a normal power bar. And then you're going to want to clamp up.
Yeah.
Because
these are magnetic, huh?
Yeah.
That's pretty dope.
All of them are. It's so sick. Never lose them.
Are you
going to low bar again?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with this low bar.
Yeah. So, yep. Center of the back. Right on the rear delts. And what's nice about low bar is you have to, in order to create that shelf for that bar to sit on, you have to have a tight upper back.
Yeah. Because
So
if I'm just flat,
yeah. So it forces you to create that tightness.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yep. And then drive up. Good. That's the floor. Drive up. Yep. Good. Good. Good.
This guy's doing cardio.
More than 3 reps.
Yeah, no, that feels good.
Yeah.
That's it. I feel like got to loosen my shoulders up a little bit.
Yep. Well, and that's what you'll run into. It's called squatter's elbow. It's the same thing as tennis elbows do. It's just
all that.
Yep. Yep. It's just from the cranking. So it's something that, one, you have to get used to. And then 2, that you just have to work. Again, if you start noticing a lot of tension in your elbows, you got to go wider. As a consequence, you will lose a little bit of tightness in the upper back. But I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
100%.
So last question on this. Do you do anything with like feet where the pressure is on the feet?
So yeah.
You
So
I do,
I do big toe and then rotate to the pinky.
Okay.
And so a lot of people will cue you heels, drive with your heels. Not really a great cue.
Yeah.
Think of it as like a tripod.
Yeah.
So you've got your big toe, your pinky toe, and then the heel. And weight should be distributed evenly throughout that. Or, well, as you ascend, I mean, if you're just driving hams or through your heels, you're going to be sitting further back. And then you're not going to allow that quad engagement once you're out of the hole to drive you through. So you want to stay balanced. You want to stay center foot. And yeah, I mean, you just want to let the glutes, hamstrings do their job at the bottom. And then when it's time for the quads to take over, let the quads take over.
Lock it out.
Yeah.
All right, man. Shout out to Zach for letting us swing by Renegade Strength and Performance, a beautiful facility in Fort Wayne, Indiana. The address will be down in the description if you're in the area and want to come check it out. Zach and his crew are some great people. Steve and I actually graduated from high school with Zach, so it was awesome to be able to catch up with him and get some work in. As you can see, he's got some of the best equipment money can buy, tons of Arsenal and Rogue equipment. He's got the calibrated kilo plates, along with powerlifting and weightlifting specific equipment. An awesome recovery room with 2 saunas and a cold plunge. Zach and I actually trained jiu-jitsu together as well, so it's awesome to see his mat set up upstairs here. Steve and I are planning on doing a bunch more content just like this, where we go around, visit other coaches, and learn from them. If you like this type of content, please be sure to like the video, give us a follow, and stay tuned for further content.